This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. The journey of Deshaun Watson and how Browns fans are going to view success from Deshaun Watson is going to be one of the most tumultuous things that we're going to have to talk about all season. It's almost guaranteed to be that case. It was going to be that way regardless of what happened in week one, but week one sure set the whole thing on fire in a way that's irreversible. And I do need a lot of people, especially the Deshaun Watson diehards in the audience who are reasonable, to understand that the performance week one can't get swept under the rug, and a lot of people aren't going to be willing to let it go as a bad game because they shouldn't. It was more than just a bad game. It was the worst game that we've ever seen Deshaun Watson put together in a football uniform. Period. Like, since we've been able to watch Deshaun Watson play, that was the worst that he'd ever looked. Now, either it's going to be because it was something else going on with him in that game that led to that performance, or it's going to be because there were things football-wise that were causing it, right? One of the things that I look at that could have been the cause of it from a football standpoint is the coverages that the Cowboys play, right? The Cowboys play a lot of cover 6. They play a lot of cover 4. They play a lot of cover 3. Now, this week, Deshaun Watson is playing against the New York Giants. And I think an interesting test will be to see how he does against them, because the New York Giants, while they don't play much cover 6, they do play a lot of cover 3 and a lot of cover 4. Coverages that Deshaun Watson struggled against versus Dallas. And the reason I want to see this is because I want to know, hey, were the coverages the problem for Deshaun Watson? Was he struggling because the coverages were confusing him, because he was seeing more 3 and more 4 than he saw before? Or was it something else, right? Versus Jacksonville, he saw a lot of cover 1 and I think a little bit of cover 2. But not a ton of cover 3, cover 4 like he did against Dallas. It might just be that he's more comfortable against cover 1 and cover 2, but cover 3 and cover 4 give him difficulties. We don't know the answer to this, right? It's easy to write off week 1 as a bad game when we don't have much information, but we could see him struggle against the New York Giants, who do play a lot of different match zones, and then realize, oh, that might be the problem for Deshaun. We don't know yet. I think that's why this week's going to be important. And one of the things that I want to talk about with Deshaun Watson is this ideal of him taking a good first step last week and what that actually means. Because it's one thing to say, well, this was a good first step. But if we just say that without meaning that, and having an ideal of what the other steps look like for Deshaun, then we're just saying shit. So with Deshaun Watson, when I say this is a good first step for Deshaun Watson, what I mean is, okay, this is progress. It's not the most radical progress you've ever seen in the world, right? Deshaun's week 1 and week 2 performance. In some ways, the bar starting at week 1 is very frustrating that that's where we have to judge the progress from. We were hoping to judge the progress from what he did in 2023, not that abomination of a game in week 1, but that's where we're at. And from week 1 to week 2, this was definitely progress. Now the question is, what does progress look like from here on out for Deshaun Watson? What needs to improve? Can Deshaun Watson play like this for the rest of the season and the Browns be fine? No. I've seen that sentiment go around after this game. If Deshaun Watson just does this, the Browns can win a lot of games. No. Right now, the Browns are having to win games the same way the Pittsburgh Steelers are having to win games. We're having to eke games out. We're not closing games. We're not finishing games. We're not putting up enough points offensively. This is not how you want the Browns to play for the rest of the season. And this is definitely not what you want to become a normal Deshaun Watson game for the rest of the season. Honestly, if we're looking at this from what the bar should be for Deshaun, given what the expectations for him were when the Browns traded 3 first-round picks for him and signed him to a contract, the bar should be he should be in the top 7 of quarterbacks. He's very far from that right now. And we admit that he's very far from that when we're saying stuff like all he has to do is be this. Now, again, that's separate from what he's going to be asked to do. I'm not talking about a statistical total, but I'm saying in this game, Deshaun Watson was a neutral to slightly positive figure in this game. He was not a game changer in this one, but he was neutral to positive. You need Deshaun Watson to be a game changer, even if his role isn't to take as many risks, even if his role isn't to be the best playmaker on the team. You still need him to be somebody who's capable of changing the game whenever they see fit. And that's just not where we're at with Deshaun Watson. We have to admit that we got a lot of steps to take before we get there. One of the things you want to see be improved from Deshaun Watson is the downfield accuracy. I thought in this one, it was a little better. I think some of the drops that he had downfield weren't really his fault, especially the Amari Cooper one. I thought he had some nice plays downfield, but this isn't even close to the kind of downfield accuracy we saw out of Deshaun Watson, even in the Tennessee game or the Baltimore game or the Arizona games last year, let alone the stuff that he used to do in 2020. So you want to see that come back in this one. You want to see the Browns be able to create explosive plays through the arm of Deshaun Watson. You want to see Deshaun Watson be able to make some tighter window throws that can get you downfield. All of that stuff you're going to want to see Deshaun Watson do a little bit of as we go forward here, right? Right now, he's at a 5.5 yards per attempt number. And that's not awful, but that's not remotely where you expect Deshaun to be. You expect Deshaun to be in about 7 yards to 8 yards, and you want to see him continue to push this envelope. Where we don't want to be at with Deshaun Watson is at the end of the year, we're talking about the Jacksonville game being one of his better performances of the season. If that is the case, we are in trouble. We want to honestly have this game not really be that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. We want to be at a place as Browns fans where we're talking about how Deshaun Watson performed, and there's like so many more games where he plays better than he did against Jacksonville. Not to say that he played bad against Jacksonville. He was good, but you expect him to be great. And right now, it seems like we're real eager to settle for okay, average to sometimes good. And it's important that we remember we signed him and traded for him to be great. That is the bar for Deshaun Watson, is to be great. Even if the role is not one where you expect him to do what he did in 2020 statistically, you still expect him to be great in that role, not serviceable, not good, great in that role. And right now, he's not there yet. It was a step in the right direction. But let's keep it real about this. It's going to be a lot of steps to get to where the Browns need to get to. This isn't a short walk to the destination of where Deshaun Watson needs to be. This is a marathon to where Deshaun Watson needs to be. So a good step in the right direction last week, but still a lot of steps to be taken. You want to see Deshaun be able to get that ball downfield. You want to see him continue to have low turnover percentages like he's had so far, which is good. Even the interceptions he's thrown, it hasn't been like super egregious misread interceptions. So that's fine. You want to see Deshaun Watson continue to be a factor athletically. You want to see him be a positive factor when he rolls out the pocket and not somebody who just kind of relies on it too much. You want to see Deshaun Watson continue the growth that he had in this game from last week, right? One of the areas I think Deshaun Watson showed the most growth in was his ability to stay in that pocket and make throws out of it. He committed to it in week 2. He stayed in that pocket. He took a lot of hits and he threw the ball well out of there. I think he got rewarded for that. He had a lot of good plays, made a lot better plays. The offense looked a lot better because of it. He needs to continue to do that and then add to it, right? Step in that pocket and now make a throw downfield. Continue to do that. Continue to see things, because even in that Dallas game, there was a lot that was there versus these looks that you're going to see against New York, that if you would have just stayed there and gave it a couple of extra seconds, you would have had a play there. Of course, you're going to want guys to step up around him. Amari Cooper, this Browns offensive line, you're going to want that to step up around him. But if we're having a conversation candidly about Deshaun Watson and what Deshaun Watson needs to get better at and what the bar is for Deshaun Watson and what next steps for Deshaun Watson look like, it needs to come with the understanding and the remembering that Deshaun Watson is not just here to be serviceable or good. He's here to be great. And if he's not great, then that's a problem. That's my thoughts on Deshaun Watson. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think the next steps look like for Deshaun Watson this week against the New York Giants? Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.